Greetings, ladies and mental gents, and welcome to this re-recording of the narration of 2 stories taken from Reddit. I had to re-record them because of a jumping audio issue, which was caused by a corrupted file or something, I'm not entirely sure. But I had to re-record it so that the jumping stopped. Anyways, here we are. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Story number 1. Count Your Lucky Stars, written by Deathworlder. We didn't expect the funky blobs to be so friendly. It was a hell of a coincidence to run into one of the pacifistic races in our arm of the galaxy. And as our first contact too. How lucky for humanity. The fungaloids, as we called them, were about 2 feet tall, rainbow-colored, and exceptionally squishy. They were amphibious, and with their primary settlements built underwater. The colony mother of the fungaloids could live for 1,000 years, and the individual buds could live for hundreds. The fungaloids were so excited to meet us. So excited. The first time their ambassador met ours, they gently took our hand and insisted on a tour of the human spaceship. The fungaloid was absolutely fascinated by our decorative water fountain, asking all kinds of questions about its purpose and construction. When it was humans' turn to visit them, there was an almost identical water fountain proudly displayed in the central area. The only difference was the little angels had been replaced with little blobs with wings. They apologized for the inaccuracy, but they still hadn't gotten hang of the human forms yet. They were unerringly curious, cheerful, and friendly. Human languages were built a bit different for them to understand, since they mostly communicated with FTL telepathy. But our scientists worked together and cobbled together a translator that allowed them to approximate speech. That was the start of even more enthusiasm, as hard as that is to believe. The fungaloids offered us new technology, spearheaded a cultural exchange, and encouraged us to visit their planets, which were perfectly comfortable for humans. We kept waiting for the catch. Humanity was never this lucky. The fungaloids had to have hidden nukes, or something, right? Weren't they just weakening our guard just to stab us in the back? Years passed, and we finally started to accept their sincerity as the truth. It was in humanity's nature to give trust when trust was given, to give knowledge when knowledge was given, to give when given. We made it our first contact with species that went far more as expected. They ran the gamut from wary to borderline hostile, but most seemed willing to engage in a minimum of trade and stay in their corner. As we associated more with other species, the fungaloids started to make sense. We were the first ones to actually communicate with them, and their absolute aversion to violence didn't matter in the galactic society that preferred isolation. But humans were social creatures, and we gravitated to the one species who actually wanted to socialize. It helped that our needs were so complementary. The fungaloids minimally settled the land, preferring the bulk of their habitats underwater, while we cared less for the ocean floor. It became common for fungaloids and humans to share a planet. Visiting each other's cities became just as normal. Fungaloids would hop around with buckets of water as they traversed the sidewalk of our concrete jungles, and humans would swim around in pressurized suits as they were wandering the organic halls of the planned mega-reefs. While dogs and cats were still humanity's best friends, fungaloids became humanity's platonic life partners. Fungaloids love cats and dogs too. The easiest way to cheer up a fungaloid, besides giving them fruit, was to let them pat fur or hair. Something about the texture made them do the equivalent of laugh uncontrollably. And in other words, it tickled. It was true that fungaloids were older, more advanced species. They had colonized many more planets than humans, and their technology was initially more advanced. But with how open they were, the relationship between races felt more like that between adult siblings. Sure, the age mattered when they were both young, but it didn't anymore. We asked multiple times if they ever were afraid that we'd betray them. The answer was always a resounding no. They had more faith in our goodness than we did. So when the fungaloids began to scream in agony and slowly die, we were of course concerned. We asked them what was wrong, though maybe ask is a little underselling it. We were a tad freaked out at this point. The Fungaloids told us they had never hit anything before. They had no intention of starting now. Their colonies, the far side colonies that didn't interact with humanities, were under attack, and their enemies were devious indeed. In line with their parasitic nature, they had found a way to turn FTL communication between colony mothers into a weapon. They were doing something that caused incomprehensible pain to spread like a virus from one mother to another. They were doing their best to defend themselves, to search for a solution. They had no luck. The Fungaloids asked for our help in tracking the problem, but they implored us to save ourselves first. There was no need for us to put ourselves in danger. We disagreed. Lieutenant Cinder Rodrigo's favorite professor in the academy had been a Fungaloid. Their human name was Happy Strawberry, and they taught spatial navigation in a way that turned it from everyone's hated subject into the most intuitive. On the last day of class, Professor Strawberry brought a fruit platter, including their namesake, and an obscene amount of alcohol. The students demolished the drinks and got roaringly drunk, and Professor Strawberry demolished the platter and got equally drunk off the sugars in the human fruits. To this day, it was one of Sindhu's favorite memories. Captain Palumi Smith had grown up next door to Good Morning and Yellow Garland, two Fungaloids who kept a pantry full of human food that they couldn't eat. On the days his father forgot to feed him, he would go to their house and eat nutritionally balanced meals as they told them stories of their travels. He still calmed them more often than he calmed his parents, and when he had planet leave, he always made sure to visit them. To this day, their pantry remained fully stocked. General Amy Ibrahim, when she was younger, arrogant, and directionless, had attempted to swim into the deepest trench on Shasta too. Her breathing apparatus malfunctioned, and she would have died there if the colony mother hadn't noticed through her hyphae. Several buds rescued her and brought her back to the Reef City. She spent 2 weeks there recovering from hypoxia, terrified out of her mind that she would never regain the capacity for speech. The colony mother communicated with her telepathically, soothing her worries and providing her with the reassurance and motivation to both recover and turn her life around. Each human of the fleet had a similar story. Each human of the fleet had volunteered for the dangerous job of chasing the alien bastards from Fungaloid territory into uncharted space. Other species were confused as to why we'd poured so much effort into fighting a war that wasn't ours. The parasites were even more confused. They'd asked us multiple times why we were fighting them. First, if they were willing to attack peaceful, pacifistic species, then they would eventually attack us. Second, our settlements were intertwined with the Fungaloids, so we were proactively protecting our borders. Third, and most important, they are our friends, so leave them the feck alone. The war was long and grueling, but we pushed the parasites to a point where victory was ours. Human and Fungaloid minds had worked together to find the cure to the viral weapon, and we traced a path to their ships, and from their ships to their homeworlds. We surrounded the planet and demanded they surrender, and we received it. In the aftermath, during the celebration and recovery, the Fungaloids told us how very grateful they were. Truly, they said, they had been extraordinarily lucky to beat us. We disagreed. We were just being good friends. After all, the Fungaloids would have done the same for us. The parasites were the fortunate ones. They had our friends' good nature to thank for their relatively gentle treatment. We made this clear to them and anyone who would attack us. If they or anyone else tried to hurt our friends again, they wouldn't be so lucky. End of story. Story number 2. Be Realistic, written by Echoing Cascade. Patronum, an awesome male, was sitting at a table in a nice little cafe near his building complex, eating scones and drinking coffee. Patronum, explain to me why I should ask for that. Across the table, a human was finishing his eggs and bacon. Didn't? Well, let me put it like this. A man once said, be realistic, demand the impossible, You understand the meaning, right? Buckingham took a sip of his coffee, a bite of his scone, wiped away the crumbs and answered, "Not even a little, no." "Well, I'm not sure either, but I always assumed that it had to do with how set in our ways humans are, and how hard it is to change the mindset of an individual." "How is asking the impossible going to help?" "Well, you see, the only way that small change can be attained is by trying to implement an absurdly big one." "Like a compromise sort of deal?" "Exactly, yes." "Makes sense, I guess. Okay, I'll try it." "Great!" They both got up, paid for their breakfast, and started to leave. Buckingham stopped before leaving the cafe. He looked worried for a second. "And you are sure that asking Sarah for a threesome with her sister is going to somehow lead to her agreeing that I don't have to go with her shopping tomorrow?" Dylan smiled like a kid opening Christmas gifts. "Oh, trust me. I know human girls. She will definitely cancel tomorrow's trip." Buckingham nodded and they left the store. "Very well. When should I go tell Sarah?" "The sooner the better. I'll come with you for moral support." "Thanks, Dylan. You're a good friend." "Don't mention it, man." Dylan took out his datapad and checked something. "What are you doing?" "Just making sure I have enough battery to film a video." "Why?" "Oh, no reason. Let's go." End of story. This is a special thank you to the one, the only, the legendary Eric Hino, who has become the only Tier 6 patron. I just want to thank the T5 patrons and channel members: Bob the Dragon, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Estrella the Dreamer, Tryagain95, Pudic Yol, Meridian117, Alithia, Jordan Bucksbaum, Angry Marine, Albard and Gusta, and Barkey. Thank you very much.